Hi everyone, trust you all are doing well. What we're going to do now is we're going to just set up our database migration for our replies. So we go to Visual Studio Code right here. As you guys remember, we set up our reply model and our replyable interface. Right, so now the thing that we're going to do now is we're just wanted to show you, just make sure everything is imported, your string limit, that one right there. Just make sure it's imported at the top as well. All right. So if you call on any methods or helpers or classes or things like that, just make sure you import it at the top. All right. So now the next thing that we're going to do is if we go to our database migrations, you will see that we got our replies migration right here. All right. So this is the one that we're going to set up in this lesson. All right, so this will be kind of a very short one. So in the next one, what we're going to do is we're actually going to set up the controller that handles the replies and stuff. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do that table. All right, and this is going to be the text because you got different types of text. Let me just show you. We got the long text. I would recommend this if you have like a place where people post like on a blog, like a news site. You're going to use long text, medium text, this one right here. So this one I would recommend if you have a blog or article place, then you put in this one. All right, and if you just want to limit the amount of characters actually a person can type, you just use the plain text one. Right, as you can see, the text, we got long text, medium text, and tiny text as well. But for this case, I will use text because for the body, because the person reply can be long but not too long, right? So this one we don't want it to be nullable, so that's why we leave it out there. The next one that we have is we got table, and this one is going to be an integer. All right, the integer. This will be the, you guys remember. Let's just open our model again. Reply right here. So if we open up our reply model, you guys remember this replyable ID right here, this one. Okay, just make sure that's the one that you bring in here. Okay, so that integer is for that replyable ID. All right, the next one that we want to do is let me just save this like this. Okay, then the next one is the replyable type. Table. And this one is going to be a string. And this one is going to be a reply all type. And this again comes from this right here. So that's our ID. This is our replyable type. Replyable type basically will be your amp, models, whatever the case may be. Okay, so in this case it will be a reply or thread or whatever. Okay, so we're just going to leave it like that. All right, so this is basically our replyable type. So we put in our replyable type, and then the default, just going to set the default of nothing. And the last one will be the foreign ID. Okay, the foreign ID for the author who is actually creating the reply. Okay, so the foreign ID. And this one is going to be the author ID. If you guys remember, in the reply model right there, we bring in the has author trait right there. So inside that, we have this author relationship with the user. Okay, so for the author ID. Right, so the author ID, and we're just going to constrain that. We want that not to be nullable because we want, if someone created a reply, we want to know who it is and where we created the reply. Otherwise, we won't know how to deal with it. Okay, so let me just remove this. I add that extra table in there. Okay, so we got our body set up, we got our replyable ID, and everything set up right here. All right, we could have used the table morphs, all right, but I'm not going to do that as we did a little bit of custom relationship setup, so I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to define the relationships like this, right? Because I want to make sure this and this match. Otherwise, we're going to get an error. So this one right here and this right here, I want them to match. Okay, so let me close this off. Now what we want to do now is we just want to database migrations. I just want to migrate the database and just reseed it again. All right, so let me do that. Okay, so what we do is open up a terminal. It's just PHP artisan migrate fresh and -d. Right, so then we just do that and it creates the database and just seed it for us. Right, so all done. Right, so if we check our database, you will see under our replies database table, we have our body, replyable ID, replyable type, all that kind of stuff, all set up in there. All right, so what we could have done, we could have kept this lowercase, okay, just to kind of make it easy. And I think that's what I'm going to do, or you can leave it as is, so it doesn't change it very much. So what you can do is this part right here. You can just make it lowercase if you want to, okay, and this lowercase as well. All right, so that is just kind of to stick with the convention, but it all depends on you. Okay, so I'm just going to do that again. All right, thank you guys for watching, and in the next one what we're going to do is we're going to create a controller to actually handle our replies. All right, so we're going to do that in the next one. All right, thank you guys, and see you in the next one. Goodbye.